The story of Jairus' daughter. Based on Mark 5 verses 21 to 43 and Luke 8 verses 40 to 56. In a bustling town by the Sea of Galilee, crowds gathered to hear Jesus, who had returned from a journey across the water. Among them was Jairus, a respected synagogue leader, a man of dignity and influence. Yet today, he was neither composed nor reserved. His heart was heavy with despair, for his 12-year-old daughter lay gravely ill, her life slipping away with each passing moment. Pushing through the throng of people, Jairus fell at Jesus' feet. His voice trembled with desperation as he pleaded, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and lay your hands on her so that she will be healed and live." Jesus, moved by the Father's faith and urgency, agreed to go with him. Together, they began the journey to Jairus' home, but the pressing crowd slowed their progress. As they walked, a woman who had suffered from a bleeding condition for 12 years approached Jesus secretly. She had spent all she had on physicians, yet her condition had only worsened. In her heart, she thought, "If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed." With trembling hands, she reached out and touched the hem of Jesus' garment. Instantly, her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. Jesus stopped abruptly and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" His disciples, puzzled, said, "You see the people crowding against you, and yet you ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus persisted, searching for the one who had reached out in faith. The woman, knowing what had happened, came forward and fell at his feet, confessing her story. Jesus looked at her with compassion and said, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." As this was happening, messengers from Jairus' house arrived, bearing devastating news, "Your daughter is dead. Why bother the teacher anymore?" Jairus' heart sank, but Jesus immediately reassured him, "Don't be afraid, just believe." Upon arriving at Jairus' home, they found the house filled with weeping and mourning. Jesus told the crowd, "The child is not dead, but asleep." They laughed at him, knowing she had passed away. Jesus took only Peter, James, and John, along with the girl's parents, into the room where the child lay. He gently took her hand and said, "Talitha koum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Immediately, the girl stood up and began to walk around. Her parents were utterly astonished, overwhelmed by the miracle before them. Jesus instructed them not to tell anyone what had happened and to give the girl something to eat. Interpretation. This story reveals the power of faith and the compassion of Jesus. Jairus' faith and desperation. Jairus, though a synagogue leader, humbled himself before Jesus. His faith was evident as he sought Jesus, believing in his power to heal and give life. Mark 5 verse 23. The woman's faith made her whole.